So I'm Hannah Howard. I'm 23. I'm currently living in South Hadley, Massachusetts, but I'm from north of Boston, Beverly, Massachusetts. Sure. Let's see, what is more about myself? I really love to cook. I've been cooking since I was like 12 or 13. I love to run and do yoga and hike and play with my dog, Tucker. It's really cute. What else? I have an unhealthy obsession with Law and Order and Gossip Girl. Yeah. People ask me this all the time, and it's like I don't have a good, I don't have a good answer because I just love food. Like really, I just love food. But I like comfort food and like more rustic food, like French country food, Italian country food, that kind of thing. And also just anything like local and seasonal, I think is delicious. More than anything, I like to make food that like brings people together and that people have a good time eating. Because I think food is like a vehicle towards having a good time, which like sounds really fancy, but yeah. Um, Let me think. I think I would really like to know how to make croissants because I love croissants, but I'm not a baker. Like I'm a cook, like all the way. I'm just like a little bit of this. And like croissants are so like you have to do exactly this, and you have to fold them this way, and like it's very complicated. And like not my style, so, but I'd love to know how to make them because they're so good. I really first started identifying as a femme probably my senior year of college, though I've dressed very femininely like my whole life. Um, I remember I had this like so back in high school I dressed very fashionably. I did not wear pajamas to school. Like, it's like not my thing. And I really like to go thrifting, and I found this like menswear inspired-ish like kind of silk like red and gold diamond print shirt, and I loved it, but I was like so afraid to wear it to high school because I was like, people are gonna think I'm a lesbian, because I'm like wearing like menswear clothes. It's like not menswear at all. And then I like came to Mount Holyoke and I was like, jokes, I like women, surprise. And I think I started, well, I had less time to look nice, as strange and stupid as that sounds. But I think the queer culture here is very masculine. It's about people who dress masculine get a lot of attention, and I mean, I am primarily attracted to more masculine women, so, I guess I'm kind of part of that problem, but I kind of stopped putting a lot of effort into the way that I was looking and looking more feminine because I didn't think that I could be queer and that I could be feminine and that I could be like preppy, which like I don't wear this every day, but like this is one of my favorite outfits and I don't feel dressed up in this. Like this feels very casual to me. And I think there's a lot of like Mary Lambert kind of femme that people are like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like it's still not normal and there's still a lot of stuff out there, but like I always felt like me dressing like me was not queer enough. It wasn't cool enough. I wasn't being edgy. Like I was, it's like part of the problem because I was like straight passing. And then I kind of realized like, hey, like I really like to dress this way. Like it makes me happy, and I think it's pretty cool to be femme. And like I realized, like I actually had this moment where I realized like that there were other people out there that had a name for themselves. Like I was like, oh, I'm one of them. Like I'm a femme. Like I think it was like some conference or something, and I was like, I could go to that conference. Like that's me. And I think that's really when I started identifying as a femme. To me, I think femme is about being kind of like fiercely feminine in this way that you aren't letting people define what that means for you. In that like I am wearing a skirt, but that wouldn't stop me from like trying to climb a fence or like do some like very unladylike thing. And just because I'm wearing a skirt and heels and I have makeup on, like doesn't mean that I'm dumb or that I like need a guy to open the door for me or anything like that. And saying like, actually the way that I look has a lot of power in it, and feeling really strong and powerful in being completely owning of your presentation of femininity. And that's what I think femme is. It's just being like really strong and like fiercely feminine, I think is the perfect way of saying it. I guess, so I'll talk, I guess, kind of about like being in the world as a person, but then like, so I work at Hampshire, which is like, in some ways a much more like militant queer. I feel like it's kind of a more militant environment. In a lot of ways, it's a really great place to go to school and to work, and I love it. But I think militant is the right word, unfortunately, sometimes. And I think for me, the difficulty has been there is that the little bit of not fitting in that I felt at Mount Holyoke, I feel a lot more at Hampshire, and like it's a little bit less. I mean, obviously, I'm not a student there; I just work there, so it's not particularly important to me. Other than that, I care a lot about queer issues. I want to support, I work in student programs there, and I care about supporting queer student groups, trans student groups. Like, I really care about that. And I think that part of, it's important for people to know that I'm queer in some conversations. And I struggle with doing that because it's not obvious to them. And I'm like, ooh, how do I and it's not obvious because of the way I dress, while not everyone who dresses in a stereotypically way is or should be queer, I don't think you can ignore the fact that, we are people, share some, common sartorial choices. And I don't really have any of those. I'm not going to wear a flannel to work. I'm just not. I hardly wear flannel in my apartment. That's a lie. I do. I look like this all the time. I woke up like that. But, and so I find I have to walk this weird line between, how much is too much for you to know about my life? Is it weird that I'm like, hey, I'm a queer lady? Or is that, pertinent information? Because I always think that, not always, but I think that's pertinent information in a lot of the conversations that I have. And I struggled with that a lot. This is my second year, starting my second year at Hampshire. And I feel a lot more confident in that now, but my first year it was it was always a question for me. I think being out in the world, as a person, not in my work, I don't know, I think I've kind of stopped caring about it in some ways. I live in Northampton, and I live in South Hadley, I already said that, but I hang out in Northampton all the time, and I live in the Valley, and I'm not stereotypically Valley queer either. So I don't know, I think I've just kind of stopped giving a fuck. People can think whatever they want, and I don't like when people assume that I'm straight. I don't like, when people assume anything about my gender identity and my gender presentation, but I think there's less opportunity for it to happen because it's less people aren't gonna walk up to me on the street and say something necessarily. So I've just stopped giving a fuck. I feel even within the queer community, I think people think that they're kind of weak, or at least play on this oh, I broke a nail, or will you unclog my drain? Because, I don't know how to do that. And that's, really stupid. Yeah, I can, unclog my own drain. I worked at a farm this past summer, and, I was fucking dirty all the time. I had this, huge harvest knife that I wore, had to use. Femmes aren't just, these weak-ass people that, don't really, they're just oh, I'll put on some makeup so I don't have to do anything in my life, which I think is kind of sometimes what people think.
No, you've got a harvest knife.
I've got a harvest knife. I'm gonna fuck you up. It's right here. It's in my boot. Okay, it's really interesting because there are a lot of favorite pieces of mine that I had when I was in high school. I was really committed. I worked on my wardrobe, in high school, and then I stopped when I was at Mount Holyoke, and now I'm doing that again because I have time and I'm not neurotic. But gosh, well, I think so I really like this lime green skirt, and I have this other great lime green skirt that's like silk lime green, which is just awesome. And when you live in New England, you need that shit. It just makes you feel good. I really like this headband, which I got in Seattle. It's a Liberty print, which I really like. I don't know. I like a lot of stuff in my wardrobe. And the really nice stuff I don't wear enough. Like the really nice stuff I don't wear. So I have a Mount Holyoke ring that probably won't work on the film.
We'll show a picture.
Yeah, thanks. Because I went to Mount Holyoke and I love Mount Holyoke, and it's the only piece of jewelry that I actually always wear. Like, I've worn this, I think, since the day I got it. Like, I don't think I've taken it off. And on the inside, I have my initials and my mom's initials, because my mom went to Mount Holyoke too. And my mom has been, really one of, like, the strongest influences in my life, in terms of always telling me that no matter who I was, like, it didn't matter that I was a woman, like, that didn't mean that I couldn't be kick-ass and, like, take charge and, like, fix the world. Like, my mom worked and my dad didn't. Like, we had a really different family in that way, and my mom always encouraged me to do exactly what I wanted within reason, regardless of my gender, which I really appreciate. And she's, like, just such a strong Moho woman, and I love just, like, having her. I think the more time I spent at Mount Holyoke, the more I realized that it was, like, really important to me that I did choose to go to this school, and that we shared that. It wasn't just, like, douchey legacy bullshit. It was, like, we share this really strong bond that not a lot of people get to share, and especially not a lot of, like, mothers and daughters get to share. So that's why I have her initials on the inside. Okay, so I don't regret this necessarily, but, like, I was into Uggs before everyone else was into Uggs. Like, I was into Uggs, like, in high school, like, the beginning of high school, and I used to wear, like, I would wear them to school. I would wear them to, like, and I, like, walked to and from my high school, because I lived pretty close, like, in New England, like, through snowbanks, in rain, which is, like, terrible for them. It's, like, really, you should, like, not wear your Uggs out. But I was, like, really into wearing my Uggs to class because they were so comfy. So I was into those before everyone else, and I now kind of regret wearing them out in public, because I think they're great slippers, but they're bad shoes. I played rugby because both of my parents played rugby. And my mom played rugby while she was here too, so we're, like, very similar in some ways. And I'm sure this is an outfit she would have worn or something like this.
You are your mom.
I should have brought the picture. I have this, like, really great, like, it was, like, one of my mom's, like, senior picture outtakes, and it's from when she was, like, 22, and if you, like, hold it up, like, we look very similar. Anyway. So I kind of was just like, play rugby. Like, I hadn't really played sports in high school at all. Like, in fact, I am incredibly uncoordinated. So I was like, I'll try something new. College is time to try new things. And I loved it. And I think rugby really shaped my belief in the fact that, just because I dress femininely doesn't mean that I'm, that I'm not opposed to, like, being, like, I don't know, being very physical, like, getting dirty and, like, sweating and, like, doing this, like, very masculine sport. And my belief that, like, women are so fucking powerful, like, just so, like, it just disgusts me, and I just don't understand why people don't realize that. It's like, if you've ever been to a women's rugby game, like,
it's just brutal.
It's brutal. It's so brutal, and, like, it's very different from the men's game, but it's also not, like, the rules are the same, which is really not something that's true of many, like, most sports aren't that way, for men's and women's, teams. And I think just really shaped my belief in the importance of having strong ladies, strong people around you supporting you.